Yeah, Charlie. Everyone is making a big deal about this coronavirus business. Everyone's talking about it. They're making a big deal about it. But I say, take it easy. There's no need to panic. Why bother? The way I see it, you've already been amply warned on numerous occasions to change your disgustingly self-indulgent, reckless behaviors. And over time, it's become abundantly obvious that you've decidedly chosen to ignore these warnings. Thus, predictably, the chickens have come home to roost. And so now, your goose is cooked. So what's the use of crying about it now? And I know you did whatever you had to do to take whatever it was you thought you needed at the time, at whatever the cost. And that is what it is. And nobody can do anything to change what you did. That's fine. You did what you did. But now, I'm doing it to you. And don't act like you're so fucking surprised. You did what you did, and now I'm doing it to you. But why, Sage? Why? I'm not totally clear what you're talking about. All right. We'll pretend you've been living under a rock for the past 30 years, and you need a consolidated crash course on the causality of the current conditions. I'll once again reiterate that which was trying to be impressed upon you, and I'll do so with extreme guarded restraint and barely contained tolerance, as, at least in the view of the higher mind, you've already been extended way more than enough opportunities than you deserve. So even just the mere speaking of these very words, without subsequent infliction of immediate, severe, punitive retribution, is an exercise of pure bridal discipline. So, point blank, there's 3 major quandaries. 3 things are at issue, and they're all based in the ongoing abuse of freedoms that, apparently, you are much too irresponsible, greedy, and immature to handle properly. Each issue is a topic unto itself, and each issue enables the other 2. A trilateral symbiotic dysfunction of sorts. But we won't be delving deeply into the details of each topic today. That type of an explication being reserved for perhaps a future video. Today we'll just be discussing the conditional generalities surrounding the subjects, and how these issues will be deeply affecting you in these last days of the old era. And these issues are over-procreation, mass pollution, and the widespread abuse of animals, culminating into an overcrowded cesspool of filth and suffering. All of this, of which is courtesy of the organisms who've been touted as the most intelligent creatures on the planet. This is the best they can do. So vastly intelligent, yet they can't even figure out how to implement existential core basics, like updated standards of moderation, sanitation, and common decency, and a working knowledge of how to maintain these aspects as important fabrics of a civilization. So the report card is in, and unfortunately, you've failed on all fronts. Sorry. 1. You are having entirely too many children, and for no good reason other than your own myopic selfishness and some desperate, irrational need to conform to the expectations of the herd. 2. You are producing way too much pollution and waste, both individually and collectively, and are not taking one bit of responsibility for managing or reducing it, nor are you producing the more efficient alternatives, which are available, by the way. And 3, you are an active participant in the horrific systematic abuse of animals on a mass scale, which continues on unabated every single day as you go about your life acting as if all that suffering which is occurring just out of the field of your personal consciousness doesn't matter. Those are the charges being leveled at you, and I don't want to hear any excuses. This is all completely unacceptable, and it's going to be corrected under pain of death or your circumstantial devastation. Mankind has been behaving like a petty, selfish, spoiled brat crybaby, and you have the gall to wonder about the coronavirus? A petty, selfish, spoiled brat crybaby who apparently needs a swift, firm spanking. And spare me the politics, because that would only qualify you to get pushed up against the wall to receive a fast bullet behind the ear. In fact, it's the politics that makes you such an utterly vile and repugnant creature, no matter what your affiliation. Bottom line, humanity has dropped the ball big time. I can't think of an organism that is more deserving of unrelenting reprisal and rebuke. And this all needs to be addressed right now. And I know that some of you may protest and implore for the implementation of more delay, but I can't. I just can't stomach it anymore. There's no way I can continue to allow this to go on any longer with a clear conscience. So I'm caught between a rock and a hard place, Charlie. I know that I'm supposed to be here in order to help set minds free from the trappings of mental slavery. But right now, I'm having a hard time finding any reason to continue performing this mission. I'm not quite positive that I have the proper gumption to carry this intention forward any longer. Not under these conditions. Right now, the conditions are not all that conducive towards this high-minded goal. For the conditions to be right for this monumental task, there must first be a solid foundation of discipline, mindfulness, and efficiency in place. Otherwise, the corrective efforts will be doomed for failure. And right now, there is just so very little discipline, mindfulness, and efficiency. So, unfortunately, now more than ever and any other time in history, the conditions for the maneuver are dismal and grim. See, one of the problems is that, in order for one to even be in a position to free one's mind, there must be a willingness. But right now, there isn't any. In fact, it's quite the opposite, I'm afraid. There is a complete lack of willingness. In reality, it's more like unyielding, belligerent, pig-headed ignorance, unreceptive to any kind of expansion into lucid awareness. And I know that this implication itself might turn some of you off, as some of you have previously complained. I know that some of you may think that this video is merely an exercise of me implying my enlightenment by highlighting your ignorance, and that's completely understandable, as this is the typical reaction of a fragile ego who suffers intensely from a deep inferiority complex. From this warped perspective, everything in life is always viewed through the lens of the inferiority-superiority paradigm, which is weak, infantile, and counterproductive. There's nothing more useless than a supposed student who is too preoccupied to focus on the material at hand, all because they are consumed in a constant state of anxiety that the teacher might be implying some sense of superiority due to the fact that they are expounding knowledge the student is ignorant of. But what's really presenting the impasse here is the student's own inability to move past their deep-seated insecurity, to let down their guard and show some humility. In other words, one is now in a position where it becomes completely impossible for them to learn anything or unlearn anything, as the case may be. A situation where one cannot benefit from any kind of tutelage whatsoever, because they already think they know everything. Like an empty cup that's been filled up to the brim. Nothing useful can get inside, because there's no more room for anything. which ends up fostering a lack of deeper wisdom, which would normally enable an understanding that true mastery of knowledge does not involve filling one's cup up with the proper ingredients, but rather is a process of emptying out the cup and sustaining this open space at all times, so that knowledge may pass through it freely and not be grasped at or held on to desperately in a futile attempt to fulfill some immature need to contrive an identity. But humanity wants no part of it. And that's why everyone's cup is filled up to the brim or overflowing. People can't be bothered to clear the mind because they're far too busy being fake, worrying about their precious fineries and other purely vain enterprises. Human beings have never before been so mentally sick or spiritually bankrupt. Hence, the commencement of such a liberation is all but impossible to facilitate, and thus the solution to this problem isn't very good news for humanity. Sadly, the solution to this problem will ultimately involve a whole lot of mass death and destruction. It's unfortunate, but unavoidable. I've been contemplating it for a long time, and I've finally come to the conclusion that in order for humanity to move forward towards enlightenment, a lot of things are going to need to get cut out of the project. And I'm not going to make any announcements as to what this is, nor as to what it may apply. Sorry, but these things are existential aspects that just don't serve any constructive purpose anymore. They are aspects that simply don't have any beneficial function. They are, in fact, actually, quite literally, detrimental to the cause, and at this point, really just need to be systematically eradicated permanently. They are profoundly broken aspects, ones that are beyond all reclamation or repair, and at this point, are only serving as impediments and negative distractions from the truth. We are in this realm to seek the truth and free the mind. That's the job we've been tasked to accomplish. But unfortunately, the majority of you seem to think that this realm is some kind of cocoon of delusion designed to facilitate constant masturbation to your myopic ego. And as such, you have set up your camp accordingly. Vast battalions of waste-producing vacuums staged across the landscape, poised and ready for an unrestrained feeding frenzy. Absolutely not. You can kiss it all goodbye. That rug is gonna get yanked out from under your feet so fast your head is gonna spin off your neck and hit the ceiling. I fiercely condemn your hubris and your overblown sense of assumed entitlement, and think that right about now, you could really benefit from a couple of hard smacks to either side of your ugly, constipated face to, kind of wake you up a bit, and hopefully bring it back down to reality. And is this harsh? Not really. This is an important wake-up call for a lazy, blind, pea-brained dodo bird. Gently caressing your cheek and kissing you on the forehead will only help you to continue to slumber. And you've already hit that snooze button for the last time. Time's up. You're late. And as a result, getting smacked awake is the least of your worries. So yeah. Good afternoon, sleepyhead. So glad you could join us. Now you the rice cracker, shut up, sit down, and do not speak. Let the adults have a conversation. Children only speak when spoken to. But wait, Sage, please don't be so harsh. If I'm wrong, educate me. Don't belittle me. No, shut up. You're already way too educated. I may teach you a few things here and there, but ultimately my main objective here is to empty out your fucked up mind, not to shove more useless information into it. Don't belittle you. Unfortunately, this is unavoidable. Your ego balloon has gotten so overinflated it's filled up the entire fucking room. Do I have any other choice but to lash out and puncture you? You are an opinionated, short-sighted, uptight, emotional train wreck. You are impetuous and selfish, and you totally lack discipline, mindfulness, and efficiency. Hence, a large part of my job nowadays has become punishment, reprove, and correction, which, sadly, is a major disappointment. But it can't be helped. One can't even be in a position to free their minds from mental slavery until one has established certain basic fundamentals. And one of the basic fundamentals right now is to just shut up. Both your mind and your mouth. Remember, clear mind, closed mouth. Well, it's time to put it into practice. If you clear the mind, the mouth will relax. Calm the mind and the mouth will follow. As opposed to always hyper-overthinking everything, then engaging in the subsequent non-stop constant yapping about it. It really is irritating. Like the one who thinks that acquiring some lame, insipid opinion on a subject is some kind of indication of a groundbreaking accomplishment. Nice try, but you've accomplished jack shit. Sorry to disappoint you, but as much as you'd like to believe, your opinion is no more of a groundbreaking accomplishment than a fat old cow blowing out a wet, stinky fart. Yeah. So getting back to you and your complete lack of directed focus, which consequently leads to an overall deficit of discipline, mindfulness, and efficiency, we've come to a point in time where you need to decide whether or not you are going to either adapt or die. Right now, mankind's priorities are rooted in selfish egotism and are not at all concerned with lucid awareness. This is why the current circumstances have quickly become a putrid situation, and the only real way to fix it is to straight up cut out the festering malignancies. No bones made, no soft soap or Band-Aid. Just cut out the festering malignancies. Then insert the malignancies into a meat grinder. Take the ground meat and liquefy it in a blender. Then take that puree and burn it. Then take the ashes and dump them into the ocean. Then we can all sing songs and eat danishes. Isn't that a normal response? Does a gardener not pull weeds from the garden? Does a healer not remove the disease from the body? Yeah, Sage, but who gets to decide? Who gets to make the ultimate decision about what should be saved and what should be cut out? Well, that's easy enough. I do. I get to decide. I will pass judgment, then implement a plan of action, systematically erasing any and all aspects that have been deemed counterproductive to the project, hence no longer conducive towards truth and enlightenment. And I'm not gonna make any announcements as to what this is, nor as to what it may apply. Get it straight. This isn't a punishment. That time has passed. Punishment implies there's hope for correction and rehabilitation, but we've been well past that point for some time. This isn't about punishment. This is about pure erasure. And it's not even a big deal. There isn't any moral wrong in eliminating useless impediments. These aspects don't have any value, nor any worthwhile purpose, hence lack any functional utility. I don't have any use for any of them. They do not serve the truth. And anything that does not serve the truth is truly the definition of extraneous and expendable. Hence, there's not going to be any more chances to recognize errors and make the proper corrections. There has been more than enough opportunity for that hitherto. And those offered opportunities have been spit on, pissed on, shit on, and then puked on. So that's it. The deadline has passed. From this point forward, there's not going to be any more accommodations or considerations. There will be no more appeals. There will be no way to reason with a relentless onslaught. There's going to be absolutely no exceptions, nor any allowance for due pause that will warrant a response to the inevitable cries for leniency or mercy. And mercy and leniency for what? So that you can go back to being an arrogant, belligerent, blind, obstinate pig? No. You've made your bed, and now you're gonna get slammed down into that fucker with brute force. And that coffin will then be lowered into the ground, and then you will be buried alive. But don't worry, you will be buried alive with your sacred attachment, so that you may have more than enough time to gain intimacy with the delusional teat you've bartered your enlightenment for. Enjoy it. You've earned it, and sacrificed your freedom for it. So go ahead and suck on it, and then swallow it, bitch. And I'm not fucking around over here. These 3 world quandaries will be corrected post-haste, or there will be serious consequences. The world has been practically brought down to its knees, all due to careless actions. Oops. See how easy that was? One small, seemingly negligible negligence can translate into death for hundreds of thousands. So the recipes for disaster are not all that complicated. One simple act performed in just the right way, and the whole world can fall. So ignore this at your own risk. Compliance will render accord. Insubordination will yield only pestilence. If you choose to disregard this warning, then don't be surprised if you wind up having to pay a very serious price. And that means everybody. And I don't care if the majority of human beings never get to hear this message. That's not my concern. It still applies to everyone worldwide, regardless if they've heard it or not. As long as this message reaches just one single solitary subconscious mind, the ordinance becomes enacted. If this message manages to reach just one lone ear, the injunction becomes written in stone and will stay in effect indefinitely until it is deemed otherwise. Don't make me have to repeat myself. Stop having so many children. Stop polluting the planet. And stop the rampant abuse of animals. Now, or else. You have the right to remain in quarantine. Anything you say can and will be used against you for a quarantine. You have the right to pay for a quarantine. If you cannot afford a quarantine, one will be provided for you.